Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to have a presentation by Bob Milano on the wood shop, which is one of the very best amenities that Hershey's Mill has to offer. The wood shop is a membership amenity, and that's because there are so many supplies and there's so much equipment that is provided, and that costs a little bit of extra money. I want you to know that you're watching the November 2023 presentation, and we're going to be looking at many of the, or some of the many beautifully handmade wood Christmas gifts that will be available to purchase. If you're watching this in 2024, the presentation is pretty much the same. Just check your Hershey's Mill News emails for the correct date for the sale date in 2024. Bob will tell you what the sale date in 2023 is. And I want to introduce Bob Milano, who has been running the wood shop now for how long now, Bob? 6 years?
About 6 years. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this little discussion. As I said, you feel free to ask questions during my talk. Just as an overview, the wood shop started out about 35 years ago in someone's garage, and it expanded over the years into what I will show you, to our current location, which is about a 2,000 square foot area where we have our machinery and work tables and so forth, equipment. We have currently about 100 members. There are approximately 15 women that are members, some of whom are very, very good woodworkers. A lot of them have joined because they wanted to refinish a piece of furniture, paint something, or maybe learn some basics about woodworking. The shop is pretty much self-supporting its operations. We support ourselves in operating the shop through doing repairs and refinishing of furniture and other items, wood items, from Hershey Mill residents. Occasionally, excuse me, we will get a piece of furniture, for example, from someone's daughter, and as long as they can bring it in or we can pick it up at the house, with one or two people, then we will certainly try and repair it, and probably can repair it. Occasionally we get asked if we can repair or refinish a hutch, much too big for us, and we're not young guys anymore. So most of the repairs and refinishing are smaller pieces, and I have some photos on that. There is a membership fee of $100 a year, and that offsets some of our expense. When we factor in the cost of equipment and supplies such as sandpaper, stain, paint, screws, nails, etc., running the wood shop costs between $18,000 and $20,000 a year. So we support ourselves through these repairs and, of course, the membership fee of $100. And we really need to have a membership fee as a filtering device. As you'll see, there's a lot of equipment, and all of it is dangerous. If you know how to use it, it's certainly not dangerous, but a sewing machine is dangerous if you don't know how to use it. You know, a knife is dangerous. 100 members is about where we should be for the size of the shop. It allows me and the three other people that are committee members, allows us to have good control over the shop's safety. And because what we don't want is someone coming in who doesn't have the skills and foolishly tries to operate a machine and injures themselves. That's what we can't have. So while we need that $100 a year to help run the place, it does act as a filtering device. Part of the funds that we have we do share with the Chester County Food Bank. And near the end of the presentation, I'll be showing the things that we have, some of the things that we have for sale this year at our sale on December the 9th, which is a Saturday from 12 to 5. And what we did last year is we gave Chester County Food Bank a check for $2,000, which represented about half of what we made, what we sold for that year. The rest of the money went to back to the wood shop to pay for the supplies and the wood that was used and just running the shop generally. So that's kind of an overview. You see the logo? Can everybody see? I assume everyone can see that logo. Something interesting, if you're coming towards the wood shop from the swimming pool, take a look at this cabinet on the other side, and it has a broken leg. It broke off. I can't find the piece, but now that it's broken, I think it's a pretty neat thing to have on there. Just a little side note. So what's the wood shop composed of? It's composed of the main entrance, which you see from Chandler, which used to be the Golf Pro Shop. And I don't know how many years ago it became part of the wood shop, but apparently, from what I understand, the golf course was a 9-hole course. So this portion was the pro shop for the golf course. We have a spring house, which is for members to store their wood. It's got a back entrance and it has a front entrance too, and it is locked. A lot of it is lumber from sawmills, rough cut, which we then take. Each person marks their wood. They mark their name on it or put a piece of tape on it, and they have access to that. So it's our sort of our overspill location for storing wood. We do store wood inside the shop, and I'll show you that in a minute or two. What you don't see from Chandler is the addition that was added in 2018. It's a 1,000 square foot addition. We were expanding with the number of members, but our front shop on Chandler became too cluttered, and it started to pose a bit of a danger, having machines so close together and somebody cutting a long piece of wood. And we did not want someone else to walk past and move that wood and possibly cause some injury. So we do have a very large expansion that was done 4 years ago. When you walk in the wood shop from the front, this is from Chandler, front entrance. This is what you see. This is what we call our assembly room. There's actually 10 work tables. We don't see all of them here because there's more to the right and there's some to the left. But this is where, after wood is cut, or when something is being designed and drawn out, we can lay your wood here and either assemble it or do your drawings before you go back and cut it in the back. So that's our assembly room. We have a room in the back here on the right side where we do our wood or finishing, staining, painting, and spraying. I'll show you, we have a little glimpse of that later on in the picture. But right now, we're just walking through the shop. Going towards the back, where the larger room is another small room where wood is stored. What we ask is every one of the members to at least put their name either on a piece of paper or on the end of the wood. And you can see this wood it's got the bark on it. A lot of this, most of this comes right from a sawmill or sawmills. One of the sawmills we go to is in Oxford, Pennsylvania, called Hearn's Hardwood. And the wood is dried, but it's very rough. And in order to get it to a smooth finish, such as this piece of walnut that you see here, we put it through several machines that trim it and square it up. Actually, to your left, which you can't see, is a wall with three more of these shelves. So anyway, that's an interim storeroom. Now, I mentioned the room that was newly built in 2018. And that's a picture of it here. This is where all of our floor equipment is stored. It was much, much smaller before. If we cut this room in half, that's the size we had to put in the equipment before this room was built. Our priority is right here, safety. Thank God we've not had any severe injuries. Every once in a while, somebody will nick their finger or something like that, but no real injuries. It's very, very important to us that people not use a machine, a new member, until we are satisfied that they can use it in a safe manner. One of the safety features is a vacuum system that we have. We've got a closet, a very large closet with two very big vacuum machines that have at the bottom a 50-gallon drum. So there are two 50-gallon drums that collect the sawdust, and the suction, when we put something through the machine, the suction is pretty good. It draws most of it, but not all of it, into these barrels. These machines are very, very expensive, actually. This particular saw is $5,000, and we replaced it 2 years ago, and it was exactly the same saw that we had before, which worked fine. But in order to make sure that we've got a reasonably new and safe equipment, we try to change machines on a reasonable basis. We don't waste money doing that, because the old machine, for example, I sold that for $2,000 and bought this for $5,000, so it cost us $3,000. So, you know, we try to sell what we have to offset the actual cost. But in any event, most of these machines do the cutting. These are back here are two band saws, and what I can say is, if people remember the butcher shops, or even actually going to an Acme or so forth, if you can see the butchers in the back, they've got a bandsaw. It's a big blade that circles around two wheels, and it spins at a high rate of speed. And you use these to cut thick pieces of wood, or the smaller one is used for cutting curves. So if we're doing something that's round, you can put it on this bandsaw and cut your circle. So I'm not going to go through what these machines do, but so basically it's cutting, it's sanding over here, and we have two machines here that true up that rough lumber. This one gives it a straight edge, and this one you put through, it's called a planer. It will plane the wood and make the surface nice and smooth so that you can start cutting out your piece. Now, when we get a new piece of equipment that it might be unfamiliar to people, we usually make a presentation and show people how to use it safely. So each time we get something that is a little different, before anyone can use it, we usually notify all the members, and those that are interested in learning how to use it safely will come in, and we'll explain it to them. Any questions? Okay. In the first room we saw, where the assembly goes on, lots of things are made in there, lots of things are fixed in there. This picture of Bill Romano one of our members making, I don't know what it is, a box of some sort, but he's putting it together in that assembly room. We make beehives, bee traps, sometimes to the consternation of the nature group. But these wood-boring bees have caused a very significant amount of damage in Hershey's Mill. I can tell you in Oakmont, my village, there were 2 houses that had over $1,100 of wood damage. And of course, we had to pay for that to be fixed. And that's really the reason we're building these bee traps, because they are needed. Of course, we don't like to kill bees, but we also don't like to have wood destroyed and then people having to pay for it. And then the bees come back again and so forth. And it's a vicious cycle. Here is a picture of something that someone made. It's a very large table that was made of maple burl. Now, burl is that part of a tree that starts to bulge out. Sometime, I know as a kid, I used to say, what is that tree? Got cancer or something? Usually comes where there's a limb and it bulges out and it doesn't grow like a limb. But when you cut that wood, it is absolutely stunning inside. And what this was one piece of burl maple. This was the center. The edges of this was the center of it, and he cut it down the center and flipped it so that the 2 ends are in the center. And we put that piece in, that entire table, inside of a large plastic tub, and then it is filled with colored tinted epoxy. This particular table ended up weighing over 200 pounds. And our member, Steve Osterlin, made it as a gift for his daughter out in, I think it's Kansas. And he drove it out there. It just fit in his car, just fit in. But all kinds of things are made at the wood shop. This is a partially finished serving tray, which has epoxy in the center and it's stained black. But this wood is olive wood, and it's beautiful. It came from Turkey. Our member, a former veterinarian, has ordered a supply of this olive wood, and he's been making these serving trays, charcuterie boards. And the fad right now among woodworkers is to take a fancy piece of wood, at least from a grain standpoint, and fill the center with epoxy, colored or clear, depends on what the wood looks like, what you want to accomplish. And then, make something out of it. This will probably have handles on the right and the left side and can be used as a serving tray. Should not be used as a cutting board. While it's strong enough, you don't want to have cut marks on this epoxy, because epoxy, while it is very strong and stable, is still a form of plastic. And once you get a score mark in there, they show up even more so than a score mark on a piece of wood. Here's another piece of that olive wood. So you can see how beautiful this is, even just without putting epoxy in it, just for perhaps putting handles on each end, sanding it down, and then polishing, and polishing. You come up with something that can be very, very beautiful. Now let's get the bowls, because bowls are something that can be very beautiful, that can be very useful, and are something that a lot of woodworkers are making now. This is a picture of Bob Caldwell, that is one of our woodworkers, one of our members. And it's a picture of some of the bowls that he's made. And he was a former professional photographer. In fact, some of these pictures he took that I'm showing you today. These are called segmented bowls. So the question is, well, how do you make that? How do you get all those pieces together? Which poses an interesting question. Look over here. I mean, these are separate pieces of wood that are cut. So how in the world is this done? So let's take a look at the process. Step one, upper right-hand corner. We've got a piece of wood. This happens to be walnut. We trim off the bark, we square it up, and then start cutting it in strips. And the strips depend on how big you want your segments to be, how big or how small you want them to be. The next step is to just decide how many pieces of wood or segments you want in a circle. And then, of course, you've got to determine what the angle of that circle is. And of course, all of the angles have to come out to 360 degrees. So if you're going to do 4 pieces of wood, they have to be 90 degrees each, and so forth and so on. This requires some precise woodworking, making sure that that angle is exact. And we do have a few, we call them jigs. And a couple of our people have made these jigs where you can set a piece of wood in the jig and set it to a particular angle and then put it through the table saw, which is right here. That's that black saw that I mentioned in the beginning. So once your layer is determined, then they need to be glued. It needs to be glued up. Now, of course, this is multiple layers. It's only one layer. And frankly, not frankly, but truthfully, each layer may get smaller or bigger depending on the shape of the bowl you want to make. And you may want to have fewer or more segments at each layer. So, it becomes an interesting, and it can be a little bit challenging math problem or arithmetic problem. So here we go to step 4. All of these are the segments that have been put together with and glued, and we put a clamp around them and glue each one separately overnight. And once all those segments are done, they are piled up and then glued together on their surface. And they are then put in a press and glued overnight. And once that's finished, it then is put on, it's mounted, this brown piece, see this brown piece under the metal piece? This brown piece will serve as the mounting plate as well as the metal piece on a lathe. And the lathe, think of a potter's wheel at a horizontal angle. And instead of using your fingers on clay as the potter does, what we have are steel gouges or cutting knives, and they're quite long. They can be up to 18 inches or longer of very strong, thick steel with different shaped points on them, ends on them, depending on what you want to do with the bowl. And so you shape that until it's accomplished the shape that you want. And then there's sanding and more sanding and more sanding and polishing. And that's how you end up with a segmented bowl. It's a very long process, but it can become a very beautiful piece. Now, for example, these 2 rings around here, the way they were put in was one of the cutting knives has just a very sharp tip. So you place that tip right on the wood and it's resting on a piece. The cutting knife is resting, and as it spins, it will create that hole or that that groove all the way around. It can be done on the outside too. And of course, we've got to smooth out the outside, so we're cutting all this excess off at the same time. It's a process. You can see that he created a lip here. If you look at the profile, you'll see a lip with a little bit of a curve in between. So you can accomplish a lot of shapes depending on how creative you are and what you feel you want to do with it. It could be something very simple and can be something very complex. And it does not have to be segmented. It can certainly be one solid piece of wood. In fact, quite a few tree trunk sections are in that spring house that I showed, where that entire piece of wood will be put on the lathe and turned from one solid piece and won't be segmented.
Bob, I have a question about the bottom of that bowl. It almost looks textured.
Well, it wasn't turned. That's a piece of sandstone. No, that's inserted. That was made. That was pre-made. I guess you call it cheating, but it's not. It's just something that he bought or found somewhere, I believe, and glued it into the center.
Okay, it's a point of interest in the bowl.
Yeah. But it wasn't turned, that's for sure. There's no way you can turn that. Okay. So let's go back to the first room I talked about, which is I'm losing it here. The room that we put everything together in. This is a picture of several pieces of furniture that we received to repair. We don't do upholstery work, and we don't do upholstery work at all, but most of our work happens to be chairs or little tables that have, very gentle legs on them. They usually split right up in this portion, and the chairs usually go and loosen up where the joint is between the top of the leg and the chair seat. So here's just a picture of several others. Somebody brought in their entire dining room chair set because they were all loose. So what we do is take the top off, see where the problem is, and we may just need to glue it up. We may need to fill a hole that got very loose where a screw won't stay in, or occasionally we will have to almost rebuild the joint, which is a little woodworking that may be digging out part of that joint, putting a block of wood in, carving part of that out, and stiffening it up. What we don't want is to just make something seem tighter that's not safe. So with that said, every once in a while, someone will bring in a item of furniture, usually a chair, that is so far broken and gone that it's not safe to even redo and try. We can't make it safe, and we don't want to even try it. So we'll have to say, no, it's something that you really should just either put it in a corner and don't let anybody sit on it, or please don't sit on it because it's about to break. Or it broke. I mean, I've gotten chairs in like this with broken legs. Every once in a while, if the leg is thick enough, such as a joint that broke right here, if you can see the arrow or this where I'm pointing, what I can do is drill a hole. Basically, it's like orthopedic surgery. Drill a hole in the body of it, top and bottom, and then insert a steel rod in there, and then glue it together. And it'll usually be fine to do, but we can only do that when the piece of wood is thick enough that it will hold that rod, for example, safely and won't break open. So again, our goal here is to do the job and do the job right, but do it safely and make sure nobody, sits on a chair and God forbid falls off it and because it wasn't repaired properly. We do have a lot of experience. When I say we, there's a few of us that do the repairs, myself, Tim Cordes, and a couple other people. But we, occasionally, as I said, we're going to have to reject things because they're just not safe to repair. This was just finished. This is going out. It's in our finishing room, and it was outside. It's pretty weather beaten, so we stripped it of paint. The seat was rotted, which is really just a big piece of plywood. We got weather resistant plywood, but it's not weatherproof. It's weather resistant, and repainted it, fixed it up, made it look as decent as we could. And I think it was delivered yesterday. And that is a picture of that bench in our finishing room. It was in the assembly room, preceding room, while it was being repaired. We try not to do any sanding, any sawdust in this room. It's a clean, we call it a clean room. In the back, we actually have a little spray booth where that has a big industrial exhaust fan, and it does suck out the fumes for anything that's being sprayed. This piece in the finishing room just had varnish remover on it. We let it sit. It does its work. It'll be stripped. It'll be cleaned to accept stain, and then we stain it, try to get it back to the original stain shade that it was brought in that it was when it was relatively new. The other thing is, with old pieces, the worst thing you can do with an old piece of furniture, let's say a chest, that, for example, that is put at the bottom of a bed. I know when I was younger, we always had a chest where we put blankets in at the bottom of the bed. If it's old and it's got nicks on it, the nicks give it a little character. Yes, we can take some of the surface scratches out and give it a new layer of stain, bring the color back. But to try to get all those dents out, it doesn't usually work. It doesn't usually make the piece better. Frankly, I don't think it makes it look as good as it did when it almost came in. So with older pieces, we do not try to make them look new. Frankly, we almost can't make them look new because so many of them are not solid wood. They're laminated with a very thin layer of wood on top, and you really can't sand it down very far. So if you do have an old piece, you can bring it into the wood shop, but our suggestion would be it'll look new from a finishing standpoint, but the dents are going to stay in. They look better. It just looks better. This way, I'm showing you this because of sort of as a joke. Somebody called in the wood shop and said, I have a dining room table with a few inserts that I'd like refinished. Fine, bring it in. This is a dining room table with 10 inserts. I have never seen anything like it before. It's resting on one of our finishing tables, which is 9 feet long. And so there's two more. Each of these pieces are 1 foot, a little over 12 inches wide. But I have never, ever seen a dining room table so big. Easy to do. It was solid wood. It was I think it was mahogany, but not all of it was mahogany. Some of it was a different kind of wood, poplar, I believe. So I think somebody made some of these pieces over the years and they just expanded it. But anyway, we refinished it. It did have a few dents. We left them in. They were okay with it. And so that's the piece that in its finished state. And they were quite happy with it. So in our finishing room, you can, husband and wife, this is Kathy, Kathy, I forget her last name, and her husband finishing what they've made. He made a little step stool or a bench, and he's got a carrying tray. They're just finishing it off. So, you know, it can be something very simple that people make or something rather complicated. And we have stain, we have polyurethane, we have lacquer, we've got just about everything you would need to finish your work. If we don't have it, we ask that you buy it. It's a piece that you're not making for the shop, for example, for the sale, which I'm going to show you next. And buy your own finish or stain. That will help us. And then if you don't mind, leave it for others to use. But you're always welcome to use what we have. We've got a big wall with, I'd say 30, 40 different types of stains, colors of stain. So there's a huge supply for any woodshop member to make whatever they want to make and then finish it. Okay, let's get to some of the things that are going to be sold this year. Some of them are artsy, some of them are not. This is what I would call artsy wood. Some of this wood was branches from a tree that probably was found on Hershey's Mill premises. This was just made from a solid block of wood. These two pairs, I guess they're supposed to be pairs. And it's a mushroom. And there's actually about 10 of these that were made. Somebody may want it. It would be fine. If not, it'll be available next year. Actually, these three items I made. This is all wood that was going to be discarded. The front and the back of this is made with about a half-inch to about a half-inch piece of maple. And on the back is a piece of maple too. And in the center, I put cherry in there and then glued them all together. Now, this was just a block of wood initially. Then cut out the shape, the general shape, of course, sanded it, made it smooth. There's a test tube, it's plastic, that goes all the way down to about this level. And I thought, well, you know, that I can make something that somebody can put it in it, either a dried flowers like these are, or something that they've got blooming and they just want to bring in a couple flowers. And to make it a little more interesting, this design here, I burnt that in, would draw it on the wood, and then I have a little a pen, a heating pen with different shaped tips, and they heat up, and I just gently burn that design into it, and it just it's a very simple piece. It's not real difficult to make, both of these, and you know, it's something different. This is very different, and I've got the live one right here. I'm going to show you. This I call sassy. It's called a bandsaw box. It's made on the bandsaw because of all the curves, but it's made from a lot of wood that was going to be discarded or that was cut off pieces. There's walnut in here. There's maple. There's cherry. There's more walnut in the back. And I've got that piece right here. I can, maybe at the end I'll show you what it is. These are drawers. It's about 15 inches high. It starts as a solid block of wood, big, fat, solid, pretty much square block of wood. And I'm not going to go into the details of how it was made, but it was about 25 hours to make this piece, 25 to 30 hours. Anyway, that'll be for sale. When all is said and done, if anything is sold, whatever is sold, I think if we do it on a per hour basis, the wood shop is earning about $3 an hour for the hours that these pieces are made. We don't make it for a profit, it's because we love doing woodworking. And but the pieces that you see take a lot longer to make than you would imagine. This is called box elder, and it was a thick piece of wood that was cut into 3 slices, and it was framed out and made into what you see, which is quite nice, actually. Let's go to the next level. And these are going to be for sale at the wood shop. We haven't determined what the cost is, what the prices will be. They'll be reasonable, but of course, the wood that's used and the amount of hours that have been put in will be taken into consideration. They have to be.
So Bob, the image in the box elder, that's in the wood itself.
That is the wood. Yes.
It looks like faces.
It's crazy. It comes in. He's got another piece. Bill Romano made this. I don't know if Bill's here online with us, but this wood is just amazing. He's got a round piece that he's making. I don't know if it's what it's going to be, a serving tray, but it's got this red blood look going back and forth across the diameter of it. But it's really neat looking wood. It's called box elder. And this picture, it's a good picture. It's a good quality picture, but it doesn't do, the grain of this any justice.
That's a very artistic piece.
It really is. It looks like a crab too. If you
right, or a beetle, or yeah.
It's a Rorschach test for anybody. Okay, let's go to the next portion. These are actually a picture of 3 shelves against the wall, and I asked Bob Caldwell to hone in on each one so that when I zoom in on them, you can see them a lot better. They're higher quality pictures. Tim Cordes made this. It's a flower. I mean, have you ever seen windmills in the front of a house, little tiny windmills, colored windmills? Well, he got that idea from that. And it doesn't spin, but it's just shaped out of, I don't even know what kind of wood it is. It's not any special wood, but it has a long stem, and it's just an artistic piece. And here's another segmented bowl. This picture is not a complete picture of what it really is. This will be a bank for kids where they can put coins. This open area will have plastic, a thick piece of plastic on it, so you can see the coins as they're accumulated. And it will be multicolored. The plastic will sandwich between a piece of maybe yellow perimeter that'll go around. But this is not a finished piece at all. Here is a trivet made from wood that was left over. This is probably walnut. This looks like maple. And so we try to use the wood. It's recycling. It's really recycling. There's no reason to throw out something if we can make something decent out of it. This is a little cheese board. I don't know what the price of it will be, but in that slot is a wire, and this whole thing will come up. You put your piece of cheese on it. You can push it down and slice your cheese with it. Over here, I don't know what this wood is. It might be cherry, I'm not sure, but it's filled with epoxy. Don Evans made this, if anybody knows the name, and he's got some perlite or something in that green epoxy, and I guess some blue, but it can be whatever you want it to be, you can put cheese on it, for example. And these are simple gifts that you can give to somebody. You probably won't have to spend a lot of money on it. And they're gifts that are handmade. They're difficult to get somewhere else. Here is something that was turned on the lathe, and you can put a flower in this. I don't know what it'll be priced at. Not sure what kind of wood it is. It might be walnut, but I'm not sure that it is. Anyway,
Bob, can you pull all the way back out? So, because we couldn't see Tim's piece.
that's as much as I can do on it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
No, I couldn't do any more. If I got the whole thing in, the image would be, well, I didn't get the whole thing in. Bob Colwell took that photo, but just imagine a stem coming down, and that stem is probably, I'd say 15 inches long. It can sit, I don't know, whatever somebody would want to do with it. They can do whatever they want. Oh, here's the bottom of that stem. Can you see that? He's got some petals on it. And these are the bottom of the upper portion of it.
No, it's not showing on this. You know what? Hold on a second. That may be my fault.
You're not seeing it?
No, it's my fault. It's my fault because I had half the screen hidden, and that I moved it now. Now I can see the bottom.
Okay, and can you see the little
Yep.
red portion of the leg of that little bank?
Yep.
Okay, fine. Because I've got this on full screen.
Yep. No, it's my fault. My apologies. Okay.
Again, what to do with this piece of wood? This is actually a piece of burl. If I hone in on it, it's maple, I believe. It almost looks like it's stone, shiny on the outside, but it's very bumpy. And it when it's polished, it makes a very, very good look. Now, I suspect that I'm not sure if these two pieces were joined together and then cut open and then what we call book matched, because they're not perfect. They don't meet perfectly. But anyway, it's there. I don't know what it will be. Somebody would find that interesting to buy. That's perfectly fine. Over here are some little pieces of square that you can put under hot coffee or tea. This is interesting. Tim Cordes made these. This wood is from Brazil. It's called Koa, Koa. It's actually from hardwood flooring. And I'll talk about that when I talk about this last piece that I made. You can use this as a bread basket or whatever you want to use it for, but it's just his design, made it up. These pieces were cut out. It's one big long piece, and then I think it was bent into curly shapes, glued together with a base and polished, and we'll call it an artsy piece. Now, can you all see this pretty well, this charcuterie board? Can I get an answer? Can you see this? Hello?
I can see
You
it.
can see it.
Yes. Yeah, no problem.
Oh, all right.
Everybody has to unmute themselves. That takes a second.
Okay. I've made this one, and I made about 10 other ones as well. This is quite large. It's about 21 inches high. It's made of hickory, and there's some, this is cherry, I believe, in the middle. But what it is hardwood flooring. I have a contractor friend who, after he finishes hardwood floors, he's got wood left over, untouched, not dirty or anything like that. It comes with the sides or tongue and groove where there's a male part and a female part, and they can stick it together, and they put it on the floor and nail it in. So I take the wood, the hardwood flooring, hopefully it's 5 inches wide, and run it through the machines and bring it down to about a 1/2 inch thickness. Take off the edges so that each edge is solid, square, glue them together. Then I have a big square piece of wood, and then I design it, cut it out on the bandsaw, and then put this design in and burn it. And it's the same on both sides. I made 2 like this, but this one's my wife's. She appropriated it. But there's another one somewhat like this for sale. It's quite large. Again, this is drawn on and then burnt with a hot knife. It's a hot pen, gets up to about 400 degrees. It's actually hot on the fingers, actually. So these are samples of the things that we will have for sale at the wood shop. And there'll be a lot more. Oh yeah, I forgot all about these. I made a load of, the reason I'm showing you the things I made is because we've asked people to, other members that are making things, keep them home. We don't have time, we don't have space at the wood shop yet to store everything because they get displayed on all of our tables. And if they sit at the wood shop for months, they're going to get dirty. So keep them home. So these are all, a lot of these from now on are the things that I've made that I have down in my shop in my basement. A lot of this stuff I made at home. I do have a shop. Puzzles for kids. These are elephants on both. There's an elephant. It looks like the elephant on both sides. So when you take these pieces out, it's a little more difficult to get these together because you don't know which side is the right side. They're cut out on the bandsaw from one piece of wood. Then after they're cut out, the back is open. Then what I do is glue a thin piece of plywood on the back, and that creates the back. And then these pieces are sanded and stained. This is gray stain, and then polyurethaned so that the stain doesn't come off. And then they're put back. If it's a complicated puzzle, I have a picture of it on the back that can be used to put it back together again. This is a very complicated puzzle. I call it cat pile up. And I do have a picture of it on the back. But you can see it's rather complicated even to cut out. And I get these pictures, these are photographs. I get them online. I print the photograph, print the picture, mount it on the square piece of wood, and then put it on another saw. It's got a very, very, very fine blade. It's called a scroll saw, where you can actually turn the piece of wood without moving it, and the blade, it won't hurt the blade. It's so thin, and it will allow you to cut into these very small spaces, like here and over here and so forth. Anyway, there is a picture of this on the back so that when you take this apart, even the grandparents won't be able to put it back without looking at the picture. Simple, cute ones. This will be maybe $15 for sale at our shop. How many hours does it take? A couple hours, 2.5 hours after cutting it, sanding it, painting putting a finish on it. That happens to be a piece of, oh gosh, I can't think what it is. well, can't think what it is, but anyway. These are other charcuterie boards that'll be for sale. These are smaller, they won't be as expensive, but they're all made from hardwood flooring. And it's oak, it's walnut, it's maple, as you can see here. To give it a little different look, I put the wood on an angle. Well, I didn't put the wood on an angle, I cut it out on an angle. So these things will be available at the shop when we have our sale. And finally, here's just the last piece, that one of the items that will be for sale, made by somebody else. He calls it the drunken man serving board. These pieces are cut out, and then thin pieces of walnut are made, and they're inserted, and then the whole thing is glued up. I'm not sure how he glued it up, but because it's not square, but it's an interesting piece, as you can see. And I think this is from some of the hardwood flooring that we have in stock at the wood shop. So with that, I think I am finished my presentation. And if I can get out of this.
Wait, Bob. On
Yes,
that piece, it looks like there's lines in between each piece that delineates the piece.
it does. It is, and it's wood. It is walnut.
Oh,
This is
wow.
Riney Luden made this. It's a strips of walnut. If you cut wood thin enough, and what I do when I bend wood, if it's that thin, I put it under a steam iron. I steam it for a minute or two, and it becomes much more pliable. And then you insert that wood, that strip, in there, and then glue it all up. And that's how you get those pieces. In fact, I'll go back to these right here.
Oh, I see that piece. Yeah,
A
yeah,
piece of walnut.
right.
So what I did was, this was a square before it was cut out in its current shape. It was a big square. I drew where I was going to cut. And what did I do? Yeah, this was the first piece that I cut out. I cut out this line with one big swoop going through the whole thing without trying to shake my hand at all, although at the bottom it's a little shaky. And that was where that piece of walnut was going to be glued in. Then the rest of it was cut out in a bandsaw after it was glued up again. So I glued the left and the right side together with this in the middle, and then cut the whole big shape out afterwards. That's how we get them in there.
Some of these pieces are so gorgeous. I would hate to use them.
No. Well, you can use these as cutting boards or charcuterie boards, but charcuterie boards are in right now.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, nobody's going to want them anymore, like our bee traps. Sooner or later, everybody that wants a bee trap will have had one, and we will not be making anymore because there won't be much of a demand, and that's fine. Whatever next year's phase is, that will be, we'll do that. We'll build that.
Got anything for the spotted lanternfly?
No, God. Isn't that awful?
Yes.
That is just terrible. I do not. So that's the end of the pictures, the show, the dog and pony show. And we can open it up to any questions that anybody has. Sherry, I'm going to back out of this. Okay.
Okay, go right ahead. And then everyone else, just unmute yourself if you have a question or want to make a comment or anything. Just unmute yourself. Find the microphone button.
Yes.
And just click on it. There you go, Karen.
Hello. Hi, Karen.
How are you, Bob? Thanks for a great presentation.
Oh, you're
Your work
welcome.
is inspiring. I have a quick question. When is the sale of these magnificent items?
The sale is Saturday, December 9,
Okay,
from 12 to 5 in the wood shop, and it's one day. If something is not sold, I'm sure there will be. They will be available during the week.
thank you.
So we'll still have them, but and whoever is in the wood shop at the time can take and the price will be on each one of them.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So it's one day only. Last year we did 2 Saturdays, and we just thought that was very cumbersome. So we'll do one day. We did 2 Saturdays for 4 hours. One day is fine. If we have to stay a little longer, that would be fine too. But it's December the 9th, and hope to see you there.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have several questions.
Yes.
What do you do with all that sawdust? Those barrels of sawdust?
It goes in the dumpster. They're in our, remember I mentioned we have 2 gigantic vacuum systems, and at the bottom are 50-gallon drums. We have a cleaning crew. The crew are the members every week, on Tuesday mornings usually, that come in, and they empty them into these giant bags I get at Home Depot. They're 55-gallon, 60-gallon bags, and they go in the dumpster. Some of the wood, some of the sawdust we use in our finishing room to dump any leftover volatile material, such as paint thinner, lacquer thinner, or anything like that. So it gets absorbed. And then when that dries, we package that up and it goes in the dumpster. We try to do it responsibly, but that's where the sawdust goes.
When is a good time, I guess, of year, because it sounds like you're busy right now with preparing for the sale, to bring in items for repair, and how do you price repairs?
Well, we give you an estimate. We give you an estimate when you come in. First of all, the best time is any time after this sale can be, but the better time is in January, because we're actually closed the last week of the year to go over all of the equipment. And we do a lot of maintenance and cleaning, really deep cleaning into things. We change some things that require us to take the machines apart, part of them apart anyway, like a tune-up, so to speak. But any time during the year is fine. You can bring your piece in, and we'll give you an estimate of what it will run, what it will cost to repair it. And honestly, I don't know where people would go otherwise. And our repairs are reasonable. We volunteer our time. We don't get paid for the time we put in. Sherry, I don't think gets paid for the time she puts in. Sherry does not get paid we're volunteers.
I get paid in thank yous.
So, but anytime, Gary, that you want to bring it in, as long as you see a car in the parking lot, the upper parking lot, that means somebody's at the wood shop. Bring it in. If none of the few of us is there, leave your name and address. We'll give you a work order sheet, and we'll call you back with an estimate of what it would run. It could be $40, $25, $30, it could be $150, it could be $300, depending on what it is. What is the most expensive, in a sense, is what is most time consuming, is to refinish chairs. They just take so much time, hand sanding, scraping. I mean, we use toothbrushes literally for these carved, like these older pieces that are carved, have carved legs and feet. We use toothbrushes to get in there to do a decent job. So they tend to be more expensive.
Two questions regarding the sale.
Yes,
Cash, checks, credit card?
no.
And this looks like a great opportunity to go really unique holiday shopping.
Well, I'll tell you, it is mobbed. The place is mobbed. I even bought a cash register. I bought a cash register tray to handle the money because last year I was doing it out of a pouch that I got from Viking Tours. And it was crazy. It was crazy. There are a lot of it's the gifts are $10, $15, 25, all the way up the line. Let me back up a little bit. I don't know that thing I showed you.
Yeah.
Now that's pretty big. And it took a ton of time to make.
It's amazing.
It's a real drawer, and I put felt in it. That's the back. So if you spend 30 hours making this, what would you want to sell it for?
I wouldn't want to sell it.
Oh, I'm going to sell it because I made one for my house. No, I'm serious. No, I'm curious. I'm curious now. What do you think? What do you think we should sell this for?
$75.
Pardon me?
$75.
In the ballpark.
I think in a retail shop that you would, first of all, probably find it in a specialty area or in an art gallery that specialized in that kind of thing, and it would be
Well
over
over
$100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be in that area. It probably will be 95. It's not because I made it, but this is so unique. And if nobody wants it, that's fine. We'll have it for next year.
So again, cash, obviously, checks or credit card available?
No, the checks are fine, payable to Hershey Mill Wood Shop or cash. And what we do is we basically split the proceeds and give just about half of it to the Chester County Food Bank. That's not why we're doing this. We're doing the sale because we like to make things. I think people like to buy what we make, and we can give back in a different way.
Given that it's going to be a mob scene, is there an opportunity for like a preview look at stuff?
I just showed you.
Well, other than the
This
stuff
is
you're
the
showing us,
preview. This is the preview.
this is it?
This is it.
You can, well, I showed you a variation of the things that would be sold. Some are artsy, some are functional. Trivets are functional, little squares of wood, put your coffee on. You want to give somebody a gift for $10 or something like that is a friend, that's fine. So it ranges, the prices range, but I can't describe everything that's been made because I don't know everything that's been made. I haven't seen it all. There's some Lazy Susans that will be made. Last year, I took some pieces of walnut, square pieces of walnut, and cut a slot in it on an angle to put your iPhone on or iPad or cell phone.
I have one.
Yeah, she's got one, and I use one, and it was just a square, 3/4 inch thick piece of walnut that I use every day when I have lunch. If I'm looking at the news on my iPad, I just have it sits up, and I was selling them for the grand sum of $10 or $5. I don't even remember.
One last question from me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Earlier, you talked about 1,000 square foot addition to the building.
Yes.
How was that paid for? That must have
Well,
cost a fortune.
Here's how it was. It was $210,000 to put it up. The Master Association, as part of the amenities. Now, this is Hershey Mill property. It was an expansion of the wood shop. It was $210,000 approximately. And as an inducement from the wood shop to build this and fund this building, we at the wood shop agreed to pay back 1/3 or $72,000 in 5 years. We had a short fundraising period, very short, but I paid it back in 4 years. It's from the refinishing and repair work that we do. Some of us made pretty substantial contributions. Some people made $100 contributions, $50, $25. I think there was about 20,000 in contributions. Most of them came from the woodshop members. And then we accumulated money from our repairs and refinishing, and frankly held off buying equipment that we probably should have bought earlier. And it was my goal to pay it off in 4 years, and we did. We paid the Hershey Mill Master Association, went back in the kitty, $72,000 in 4 years. So I think that's pretty good accomplishment.
That's great.
Well, the stuff you've shown us is totally amazing. So far beyond what the birdhouse I made in 7th grade shop.
There's going to be a beautiful big birdhouse there.
Great.
And I think we're going to raffle it off. It's really absolutely beautiful. One of the other things was Dominic Alerdier built these napkin holders with little animals cut out on the front, and they are absolutely beautiful.
Oh.
He's got I think he made about 10 of them. Dominic is the master of building small things. So, those are what I know of off the top of my head, what I remember. But there definitely will be things there that you would be interested in buying for someone. I'm not trying to push the woodshop sale, and this presentation isn't because of the woodshop sale. It's because we want you to know that there is a wood shop. It is open to any resident of Hershey's Mill that wants to join, but who is reasonably serious about doing something. Because one of the things when you join, we ask that you give us one Tuesday morning, 1 month a year of Tuesday mornings to be a cleaning crew to come in and clean the machines. It's about an hour and a half commitment, 1 month of Tuesday mornings a year. Not bad. For $100, you're getting there's no place, there's no wood shop in the area like it, except a professional wood shop. There's no 55 plus community anywhere in this part of the country that has this type of equipment that we have. We take care of it. We're serious woodworkers. We've got all levels of woodworking. Husband and wife joined a couple months ago. I spent a couple hours with them on a Saturday morning. We made a box, but I showed them how to make a machine, cut it on the machine, how to lay it out, how to put it in a wood vise to drill the holes to put your screws in. And now they're doing things on their own. So, we will teach you to use the machine that you need to use to make what you want to make. But you at least have to have the incentive of wanting to make something, and then we'll help you make it, at least guide you to make it. Even if you want to refinish, I've got a neighbor across the street that will join, and she'll start she's got a chair that she wants to refinish, and she has a few things that she'd like to refinish. So she'll bring it in. We've got all of I'll say solutions in a literal sense, the liquids, the strippers and the gloves, the protective gloves and the paintbrushes and whatever that she will need to refinish this. And we'll give her guidance. This is what you do first. Here's how to do it. Now you do it, and I'll help you with the next step. So we will help along the way. Not everybody uses every machine we have. Not everybody knows how to use every machine we have. And we have a few very, very good woodworkers that don't use every machine we have. And that's okay. Some people like to turn bowls. I don't turn bowls. I did that. But I can use a lathe, but I just don't use it. So anyway, we've got pretty much something for everybody. And Dave Nagurney has joined on camera. Dave is one of our committee members. And he's extremely helpful, and he's a very, very good woodworker. He's also the spokesperson for the sports committee, or the head of the sports committee. So he's got his hands full. And Dave is one of the people that comes in the last week of the year where we close down and just do all of our maintenance when we do our maintenance for the machinery maintenance. Any other questions?
I have a question. Your pieces are beautiful. But I have a question. Do you give tips to people who have like a dining room table that's too big to bring into you? Just how to kind of spruce it up a little bit to maintain it, like with some areas that may have the finish rubbed off a little bit. You know, don't want to do the sanding down and all of the major deal, but just to.
The only tip I can give you is to get Old English and touch up those scratches. Old English.
Well, it's not scratches. It's more that the polished finish is rubbed. You know, like the wax finish is more rubbed that I don't want to use, like a Pledge or.
Old English, that's what I use. I've
Old
got a
English.
lot of antiques and I use Old English.
Okay.
If it's a lighter color wood, there's a lighter oil Old English, and if it's darker wood, there's a darker one.
Yeah, I have used the darker on old furniture I used to have. Okay.
It probably needs to be very lightly sanded and a coat of lacquer or polyurethane on it, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
just-
It's a very heavy table. I'd never be able to get it to you.
Well, that's the problem, and
Yeah.
I'm not a young chicken
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, I understand that. Yeah, it's the.
We don't even, every once in a while, if we have something that every once in a while we will have to use somebody's pickup truck, but it's because, well, I don't know. It's because of it's just too heavy, but it's not too big to be handled in the shop. We've got a limit to how big an item is that we can handle. We really try. We'll come to the house and pick up a small cabinet or a cabinet that I can't pick up by myself. We'll do that.
Mhm.
A big china closet, no, can't do that,
Sure.
unfortunately.
Mhm.
Again, we are volunteers.
Oh, I certainly understand that.
And you may call the wood shop and nobody will answer the phone. You can leave a message. We'll try to get back to you, but it's not like we have an answering service.
Mhm. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But and anybody's welcome to come in and look at the shop and Joanne, ask questions like that. If you've got a question, you're welcome to come in and pick our brain. We'll certainly try to help you out. But consulting services, that's just not it. It's still an amenity. It's
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
it's still a place where we would like to go, and we go to do things we like to do. And it's not that we don't like to fix something. I do like to work with wood. I do like to fix things, but I used to be a lawyer. I don't want to be involved in law after 50 years.
Mhm.
Just done with it.
Do something you enjoy.
I can, well, anyway, I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, I do. Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Bob, thank you so much. I always enjoy this presentation each year, and I really appreciate the opportunity to showcase all the pieces that you all are making for the Christmas sale, because they're amazing. It's
Even
just-
if you don't want to buy anything, you should come in and take a look. It's really neat. And I think we'll have coffee and donuts in the back.
there you go.
Yes. Did you ever, oh,